Dear Your Excellency, dear professors, dear fellow students, my name is Nitarsu Rakutveil and it's a great honor to be here today. I am an exchange student here and I'm also enrolled at Sciences Po Paris in the interdisciplinary dual degree between liberal arts and life sciences entitled Environment, Societies and Sustainability. First of all, I would like to thank you all for your presence here today and especially thank those who organized this event because it is important to allow us to share our views about such an important issue like biodiversity crisis. And as a person who studied in France but grew up in various African countries, it is meaningful for me to be able to hear about young people's thoughts from all over the globe. And I would like to start my presentation with a question. I would like to ask you, when was the last time you saw stars here in Seoul? And while writing these words, I realized that we rarely see the stars here. And stars may seem far away, but they are at the core of this so-called biodiversity crisis. As French philosopher Séverine Kodjo-Grandvaux argues in her essay Devenir vivant, stars are the embodiment of the physical and spiritual link we share with all other living beings on Earth. Because everything that exists in the universe is made of the atoms that were forged in the core of the stars. And part of the ecological crisis we are facing today is because of the break of this spiritual continuity. When European colonization started in the 15th century, this spiritual continuity was broken because of a cultural and philosophical shift towards seeing nature as resources to be exploited. And I think that describing what is happening now as a spiritual disconnection is one of the most accurate way to describe the biodiversity crisis. Indeed, we are losing forms of lives that took millions of years to evolve to the point they are today. We are losing weird ways of locomotion, radically different ways of communication. We are losing what makes this unique planet wonderful. And yet, our societies do not take actions up to this massive and catastrophic life destruction that do not seem to affect us in a sensitive way. We even lost our ability to explore the world with our senses, unlike some Aboriginal communities, for example, who define seasons with sensations and observations. It can be the bloom of a special flower, the smell of humidity, or the intensity of the wind on the skin. And such perspective says how much we have lost. This is why what we call biodiversity crisis is, in my sense, first and foremost, a sensitivity crisis. Biodiversity crisis has a sensitive cultural and spiritual dimension. We let all those species die because we are used to see them as background decorative items. We let all these species die because we do not care about them, and we let those species die because they do not have intrinsic value for us. And what we need now in order to tackle this indifference is to build a society that highly values the life of non-human beings. We need a cultural change, a change in our values, our priorities, a change in our imaginaries. And it would be very presumptuous of me to say that I have policies about how to implement cultural change, but what I would like to do with you today is sharing 3 levers of change that I've experienced or I've hoped for in the different places I have lived. The first lever is what I would call non-Western knowledges or practices. I lived in Benin, in West Africa, where voodoo deities are praised. And put very simply, voodoo are seen as manifestation of natural forces. And what I found interesting in voodoo culture and belief is its ability to protect and maintain ecosystems, especially forests, because they are labeled as sacred ones. And this cultural significance establish a relationship based on respect or fear sometimes, but it is a relationship that recognizes an entity. And this is why communities holding non-Western knowledges or practices are important. Their imaginary is full of entities they have a relationship with, where we see an objectified nature we can extract from. And they have developed a more complex, precise, and rich comprehension of ecosystem. And if we want to repair this broken link, we need to rehabilitate such knowledges that have been belittled by centuries of colonization. And the second lever is art. I would like to watch with you the trailer of a documentary by French director Jacques L'Oeil called Birds of America. And my words would not be enough to transfer the feeling that I felt while watching this film.
Aux sources du fleuve, commence un voyage dans le temps sur les traces de tes oiseaux disparus.
Audubon was an early environmentalist, and so much of what he worried about came true.
Tu prédisais, il n'y aura plus aucun poisson, les magnolias disparaîtront des forêts de Louisiane, des millions d'oiseaux seront exterminés.
We have 10,000 plus miles of canals and pipelines that have been dredged through these pristine landscapes that once were prairies.
They poison the soil, the air, and the water.
Now it's becoming mostly marsh. You can't really live here.
Many artists in this period recognized that there was something to be gathered from the wilderness and documented before it was lost.
He did a marvelous job, and no one has ever even come close to him, or ever will, because a lot of the birds so very scarce, you couldn't do it again.
This is what happens when you don't take care of the wildlife and the natural lands. You will end up with extinctions.
If it don't stop, our children might not live to be our age.
Tu écrivais, si toutes les bêtes disparaissaient, l'homme mourrait d'une grande solitude d'esprit.
A film like Birds of America succeeds in encapsulating the spiritual, emotional, and cultural dimension of a species extinction. And such a film has the power to make us feel what a species extinction is. It has the power to wake up this part of us that feels infinitely sad, but at the same time, it has the power to wake this part of us that urgently wants to defend what is left, which is, I believe, a first step into repairing this broken link. The third and last lever is symbolic and meaningful acts. I ask you about the last time you saw stars in Seoul at the beginning of this presentation. And one of the reasons we can't see the stars anymore here is because of light pollution, which also threatens nocturnal species life. I would like you to imagine a starry sky in Seoul, and I would like you to imagine what would a starry night would mean. It would mean that we recognize that letting non-necessary lights is not acceptable anymore, and that a humbler place in the world is desirable. Making stars visible again is very symbolic, but it has the power to set standards. It has the power to signal that non-human life is valuable enough for us to turn off the light, and in other words, to change our lifestyles, which is exactly what we need to repair this broken link. Going toward a sustainable future will require a change in the way we view our relationship with these entities on Earth, and we are inheriting 5 centuries of colonial relationship with these entities. It is not an easy task, but it is not an impossible one. And what gives me hope in defining biodiversity as a broken link to be repaired is its solution. We need more sensitive individuals toward those entities. And for that, we just need humans, their emotions, and a reminder that, like everything else that exists in this universe, we are above all stardust. Thank you.